Hey
Hey,
there.
this is perfect because I just started recording before you sat down. So this is your podcasting mic?
Yes, I prefer to call sports games when I'm sitting at home and watching sports games. I'll turn down the volume and call them for myself, to be like, and now, welcome, your 2020 Philadelphia Eagles. That's terrible. They're horrible. I shouldn't even talk about that.
That's great. The cool thing is I have a mixer attached to this mic so I can do stuff like say, today on THISTOPIA, our guest,
Oh,
Nishat Akhtar. Yeah, I can't. Did you hear it echo?
yeah, that was so cool.
Okay, because I can't hear it. I don't have external monitors. So I just have to play with the buttons and hope it happens.
That's so cool. I feel like the audio like making your audio better in this world of being on video calls all the time really ups the game. It ups the experience for a participant.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I started doing this shit like this week, and I
Yeah.
was listening to some people on YouTube talk about it, and they were like, audio, if you're streaming, like everyone's so obsessed with video, but audio is actually the most important part. And it's these super like pro streamers, which I'm the opposite of because
Yeah.
I'm not that at all. I haven't started. But yeah, it was pretty interesting and kind of like, I don't know, comforting or something. I don't know. How
Yeah. So like if you have a mic, you can have a base level of a good quality output. You're like, got the mic. This thing's gonna be great.
yeah, exactly. I love you feel free to use that
Okay.
for the rest of your life. Always.
I have another one too. This was like such a great purchase. I have to say, like, um, Tim Ferriss on one of his podcasts, I think Tribe of Mentors, he would have 5 questions that he would ask uh, any group of people that he would meet. And I love that he would consistently be seeking sort of asking the same questions to get different knowledge from different people. And one of the questions he asked was always, what is a product or a purchase you made under $50, I think? Let's say 50. What is a purchase under $50 that you made that's like radically improved your life? The first thing I would say is I always say the first thing that I purchased that radically improved my life. You're not Tim Ferriss, but we should talk about whatever you want to talk about. But I just want to plug this, which is buying an apple slicer is like a complete game changer.
Yep.
It's a complete game changer. It's incredible. I can't eat a whole apple. It's a lot of work, but I like to eat an apple regularly. And then you can take the slices and put them in the fridge and they're cold, which is really a luxury. But this is probably the second item that's like made such a $50 under purchase that has made great impact in my life. Because
What else does that magic wand do? Does it have 4 buttons? Is that like rubber pad buttons that change settings on the outside?
exactly
Oh,
that.
got it.
Power, mic on, mic off, volume. And then there's a toggle for the echo. So you can Bluetooth mode. Let's turn this thing on.
Wait, what did it say?
Bluetooth mode.
Got it.
So I could connect my phone to this and then play music through it while I'm singing.
Oh my gosh.
But it can be like hyper echo,
Yes.
which is
Oh,
really fun. Uh, or none at all, which is not really that exciting. This is very like basic reporting. Yes, we are just tuning in here from the Washington Post. We have just heard that yes, in fact, Joe Biden has won the election. Your new president will be Joe Biden.
yo, 4 more years of a Trump presidency, that would have been every newscast. It would have sounded like WWF, no doubt. Just the complete spectacleness of news.
Kind of come there anyway. I'm gonna turn this thing
Yeah,
off.
100% we're there anyway. But yo, question.
Hey, answer.
Fuck, what was my question? Oh yeah. Oh, uh, the book is Tools of Titans, right? The Tim Ferriss book.
Oh, yeah, I haven't read the book. I just listened to the podcast. Tribe of Mentors is the podcast that I think I got introduced to the 5 questions that he does. I haven't read the book.
Yeah, Tools of Titans is this like massive tome that he put out of a distillation of all those different podcasts, like all the good parts from hundreds of podcasts. I got it a while ago, and you can kind of jump around anywhere in the book. It's kind of like loosely segmented into how he like, segments people and these different partitions or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's fucking awesome.
Oh,
It's
cool.
like it's a really good book because it is just like the distillation of the points that you can immediately take out from you. And I got it as I think I got it unfortunately on my phone just so that I can reference it and have it with me all the time. But I
Mhm.
saw it at a little bookstore by our over on Larchmont here in LA called Chevalier Books, which is a little indie bookstore. And the book is like this thick. It's
Oh, wow.
crazy.
So you had it and you didn't even did your thought about the content change when you saw how large the book was? Because you originally just had it, you could have a book that's 2,000 pages on your phone and not know. But then
Yeah.
when you saw that the actual artifact was that big, did it do something to you in your perception of
You
the
know,
book or
the
the writing?
only thing that I thought about was, I had like the 4 hour work week back in the day when it first came out, and I thought that he's very smart, right? Like Tim Ferriss is a smart dude, and he's understanding that there's this thing that people want right now, like self-helpness has become this new kind of democratized thing, and he knows how to take it and make it really, really accessible to people and make people feel good pretty easily and change people's lives sometimes. That's cool. I'm not a huge Ferriss head, but I like how he's done his thing and how he, yeah, his like perspective around that stuff. When I saw that book, unlike any other book of his that I've seen, or any other book in that section on this huge shelf of, I think it was like the business section or something,
Uh-huh.
business. And you saw this like sea of spines. And then in the middle was this huge like yellow monolith. And it said like Tools of Titans, Tim Ferriss. And I was like, oh, that's the fucking book.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Cause he's very intentional, and deciding to put out that thing as like an object was intentional. And I'm like, that's interesting that he decided to make something that was almost a cube. That I'm
Yeah.
exaggerating a little bit. So I was thinking
No,
about the marketing of it a little bit, you know?
yeah, it's funny how there's there's so much, I think, respect when I see a book that is so large, only because you're like, wow, there's a lot of work went into it, be it good or bad. Forget Tim Ferriss in this book. I'm just saying, like, something that you see that is large, you're like, it could be a sculpture, it can be a book, it can be, a mural, anything. It's like it took a lot of work to make something of that size, so it immediately commands your attention in a way. But then the for to get through a book that is so long, it better be good work that got put into it, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. It's for sure pretty cool. Hey,
Hi,
hi Nishat Akhtar.
hi, Adam.
Let's do some like, so this whole thing, just to kind of like level set, this whole thing is going to be on a thing called THISTOPIA that I just started. And initially it was meant to be me talking about like game mechanics and creativity and process and drawing, and just like this kind of platform to do whatever. And then I interviewed my friend Mike Davis, and then I interviewed my friend Eric Carlson. And I'm like, oh, this is all a part of it. It's all about synthesizing and being inside and processing. And I think like in the thing, so I add like broadcasty graphics on the outside, and it says like live processing down the side, kind of like a news channel or something.
Oh,
But I think
perfect.
that's the whole idea, that that's what this all is. It's all about, like, this is meant to be a way for me out of my day job to continue processing and connecting. And this section, anytime I talk to a person, I'm calling it synthesizing as like a segment. So to me, the whole idea, and I know this is what a conversation naturally is, you know this, um, but the idea is like hopefully talking about input, just the things in your life that, whether it's like shit your whole life that has just been a part of you and what you do, and then kind of like what you make or how you filter and process. And I guess without setting it too much up, which I just did anyway, because you're my homie and you're probably like, what's Adam doing? I just wanted to give you a little bit of the general idea. But what I've found is that all the words I said are loose enough to make sure that no matter what happens, it still works.
Okay, great.
So sorry about that. That's the caveat. And also it's just a chance to hang out.
Yeah, I love it. I think that every conversation with you is always great. I woke up this morning and I was like, what is going to happen? What is going to happen today? I hope I'm smart enough or have the goods to keep it
Stop.
going.
Come on. Well, okay. So Nishat, you're living in Portland, Oregon. You're drinking out of big, pretty mugs.
Dollar store.
Wow.
You know,
You do a lot of shopping at the dollar store?
yeah, of course. I mean, dollars. I mean, not lately. I don't do any shop. I'm not really sort of buying anything these days, but yeah. You know, fun fact about this mug is they were bought at the dollar store. My mom bought them for me at the dollar store
Okay.
as like a housewarming or whatever. But I was watching Insecure a year ago or so, or maybe 2 years ago, and Issa had the same mugs, and I was like, "Hey, cool, all right,
Really?
yeah."
Yo, my girlfriend Candy and I, you know her, I'm just saying that for whoever doesn't know. Um, we live across from an area called Little Ethiopia in LA.
Mhm.
And this morning we walked over because we heard there was a coffee shop right next to a restaurant called Mercado, which I guess is like featured all over Insecure.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I haven't seen Insecure yet, but you know, Candy's seen it, and she's like, "Yeah, it's like a huge part of the show." And across the street from Mercado in Little Ethiopia on the main street is a big, huge picture, larger than life size, of Issa Rae as like an homage to her, bringing attention to the neighborhood. It's
That's
so
awesome.
cute. It's so cute. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Dang, you're probably
she's
eating
dope.
so good with all that delicious food right
We're doing
there.
okay. So you're in Portland. Your
I
name.
am in Portland. I'm in Portland. I feel like I'm literally in this chair more than any. Yes, I'm in Portland, but I'm mostly in this chair with this bookshelf as like my backpack of my experience of life
It totally.
lately.
You're like a turtle, and that's your house because it's your.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Do people, when people see you on calls and stuff, what do they say most about your backdrop? Do they ask questions?
Yeah, you know, I've had a couple of different objects in this corner that have moved. There have been things that have been over here that have disturbed people. There was an owl that I think has been intimidating. There was a basketball. There's been a lot of stuff. So people tend to talk about that. And there is a Twitter that I really love called Bookcase Credibility. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
No.
but Bookcase Credibility, I think, started in quarantine when everyone was suddenly home, and so many people were, you know, so many people who had their backdrops as bookcases
Come on.
were then being judged. And I think their quote was, "The the bookcase behind you says more about you than what you're actually saying," or something like that. And it's like Fauci and Betsy DeVos, who like literally was, Betsy DeVos had a bookcase behind her that had no books in it, which was just like so fitting.
It's just a
Um,
case. Yeah.
exactly. Empty loss of education. It's like the perfect metaphor.
Horrifying.
Yeah.
I love that. My dumb brain, as soon as you said I had an owl behind me that was intimidating to people, I just imagine you on calls with like a bunch of sparrows, and they're like, "Please lose the owl," like sparrows and crows.
Yeah, here it is.
Yo, that's gonna be the cover of the. This is it. Did you name the owl?
You know, no. And it's funny because do you think so owls in growing up in America, you know, you'd see like owl, like a drawing of an owl that's like the wise owl. But in India, when you call someone an ulu,
Hmm.
that also means owl, but it means like a wise ass, not like a wise, smart, you're wearing the mortarboard and you know
Oh yeah.
everything. It's more like someone who's just like being a smart ass.
How
Uh,
come? Like, what is the connotation with owls? And like, are there tales where there was like a trickster owl or something like that, or
You
like
would
a?
think. I don't. I wish I had that story for you, but I don't. I don't know. I just know that terminology. I just know that terminology. It's sort of like how jackals sometimes have one perception and some in a story of being like sort of sneaking through. Maybe it's because they like rummage through your garbage or whatever, and they're like
Mhm.
known for being the trickster. But uh, yeah. Anyway, this owl doesn't look. I guess if he looks deep into its eyes, it could be really sort of nothing in there, or it could be very intensely staring at you with a deep thought.
Yeah, no, that is really intense.
So it got removed from being behind me in meetings. Yeah,
Like presenting to clients and they're just disturbed. They're like, we can't do this anymore.
yeah. There's so it's interesting because people think about what's behind you, but also like the thing that we don't ever talk about is like what's actually on your desk.
Oh yeah.
Do you have anything on your desk that's like always there that you like? You probably have like a 20-sided die that you roll to make a decision about something.
I have this mug that is a 20-sided die turned into a pen mug. I do not roll it. It gets very messy when I try to roll it.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
But I used to play back in Portland. I played a D&D game for like a year plus with a bunch of homies, and I got them all. We all got matching mug cups. Die mugs for like Christmas or something for holiday gift.
That's dope. I see that also you are very committed to the Micron pen. Sweet.
It's ridiculous. I'm too committed. I found a pack of Microns from years ago that were dusty. Still worked. Shout out Sakura Micron. Yeah, and I have like just buckets full of them. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I just like it's almost superstitious for me at this point, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I have a pencil that I use kind of exclusively.
What kind of pencil?
I lost your focus a little bit there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yo, this autofocus thing is not the best autofocus, by the way. They should call that out of focus. You know what I'm saying?
Good one.
Is that better? No, it's not better. Hold on.
Mm-mm.
See, that's good. Crispy.
Oh, the mic is throwing it off.
Yeah, the mic's throwing it off. Let's go like this. All right, cool. Thanks for letting me know.
No worries.
So we were talking, we were texting a little bit. You were like, hey, what the fuck is going, what is this? Is this a trap? And I think as a joke, I was kind of like, yeah, let me know if you have any poetry or any poems or quotes. But I was not.
Joke? Why do you do that?
I wasn't joking at all. I was like, because I kind of said it as a joke in case you thought it was a joke. Yeah, I heard a quote a couple of days ago watching a St. Vincent masterclass on like songwriting. I'm not songwriting or anything, but I was just writing down all the shit she was saying because it was just universally applicable. And I'm like, I've been telling people, it's like, oh, she said this thing, da 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 da. Have you heard anything recently that you're like, yo, I think about this all the time and it's changed the way I think right now?
Well, it's so recent that I'm not sure I think about it all the time. But I did hear something good yesterday that really, I think is something I will think about, right? I've been thinking about it since yesterday. Yeah, I have to pull it up on my phone to read it to you.
That's okay.
If you don't mind.
I'll allow it. Also, just to let you know, so this is, I'm doing this so out of order, that's okay. But this is going to be recorded now. And then later, like in a little bit after this, I have to kind of like put it back on, and then I have to live stream it to go onto Twitch. So what I'm going to do is bring it into this different program called OBS. I go into OBS. I then will do a live thing where we're live, and I'm like, okay, hey, now you're going to see a pre-recorded thing I did with my homie Nishat, and I'll give you a little bit of setup there. So there will be context to what's happening.
Right. You're going to edit all of this and make it make sense.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes with Nishat today. No, it's going to be a weird meandering conversation like this, but there will be a little bit of like contextual Nishating up front.
Cool. While I opened my phone to find the quote that I was going to read you, I found something else that I kind of would like to read you. And
yeah.
Then the other thing, how does that sound to you?
Fucking sounds so dope.
Our mutual friend, Jordan Eggstad, who's an amazing designer here in Portland, absolutely love him. One of the most inspiring people I know, and like incredible designers, developers. He's amazing. He's been posting about a couple of design books that he's recently got. And, I just opened my phone and there's this quote from him where he wrote, "Timeless is a misleading word. Nothing in our world is perfect or permanent. All created things evolve, fade, and in time create room for new form. And design is no exception." And I love that. Mm-hmm. It's so true. I think that one of the things in life, especially right now, is this search for gravity in this spinning world that we're in, in this new world in COVID times. Who are we really when you can't see your friends, or you can't go to the gallery, or you can't convene in a way, or you can't touch people like you used to? Like, who are you? Even our own existence that we've like thought of ourselves as, or how things are just the way they are, certainly are not. And I love that he was able to put that into words in a way where even things that we've once loved and ways of life that we have thought is just the way, going to the movies, or, giving your friends like 2 kisses on the cheek when you see them, or a hug, or anything like that, like maybe the emotions that drive those experiences are timeless, but the actual experiences aren't. Anyway, I really love that he wrote that, because that gives me quite a lot to think about.
I want to come back to that after this next part. I've been talking about timelessness a lot lately as well.
Maybe I can pull this up on my computer faster.
Oh shit.
Yeah, okay. My dad sent this to me. He actually read it to me yesterday. We were on a call, and I was talking similarly about, like, we're processing so much about our life and how we live and how we're going to live, and who we are and who we were and who we will become. And he sent this to me, so I'll read it to you. Some of the writing is a little cut off, so I might sort of try to figure out what the words are.
That's okay.
Okay. What also became known was that many creative individuals were intuitively familiar with such workings of the unconscious and relied upon it quite faithfully. An especially beautiful description of such unconscious creativity comes from Ian McEwan's 2005 novel, Amsterdam, which delineates a gifted musician's struggle to find that coda for a symphony he is working on. He had no preliminary sketch of an idea, not a scrap, not even a hunch, and he would not find it by sitting at the piano and frowning hard. It would only come in his own time. He knew from experience that the best he could do was relax, step back, while remaining alert and receptive. He would have to take long walks in the country, or even a series of walks. He needed mountains. He needed big skies. The Lake District, perhaps. The best ideas caught him by surprise. And at the end of 20 miles when his mind was nowhere. Somewhere. So I love that. I think that, we while trying to solve a problem or figure out that, I was talking about identity and the times that we're in and who we are and who we'll become and who we were, or the things that we did and the things that we do. Sometimes spending too much time thinking about it in your conscious mind is, yes, that's important work, and it's logic and sorting, but the unconscious mind will do that work for you if you take a walk or just take yourself out of the trying to do the math so hard. And I found that really, comforting. I'm in this chair, I'm in front of this bookshelf so much, and when I get to take a walk or go for a bike ride or do something like that, and maybe it's cliche, people say it all the time, like take a walk and get in the shower and the idea will come to you. Showers never come to me. Showers don't come to me. Ideas. That would be really convenient though, but ideas don't really come to me in the shower. And it's not that ideas necessarily come to me on a bike ride or a hike either, or a walk in the neighborhood. When I go do something like that, I find that for the first time, my mind is actually quiet. And it's like, you think about the white room, the white box of a gallery, and how creating a space like that is empty, makes the opportunity for an idea or something creative or an object or whatever to be, to exist.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off by saying totally. That was a reinforcing mechanism of saying totally.
Yeah.
Not a segue.
Well, I mean, I think that's really all there is to it. It's just, I think that's so beautifully put, that, the need of lakes and mountains, and how we often think that the conscious mind is the one that's going to answer your question or solve the problem, but the unconscious mind can be this processor that's doing the work. Once you sort of I don't know, I was thinking about, I was watching Fargo the other day, and this is probably the wrong metaphor. I was thinking about the chipper, it's like when you put it in there and something's going to come out. The conscious mind is kind of the funnel,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even the mechanism that's like chopping it all up. But the unconscious mind is the thing that's like filtering it out. And
Yeah, that's such a weird analogy, Nishat.
sorry, it's horrible, horrible. What?
So the input is a human being, a
No.
body. The incubating mind is the wood chipper, and the output are the sprayed remains of that body.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What happens? No preparation. Here we are.
You know what? It works 100%. I was just looking at the book by Hypnosis, the famous British design studio that's been doing album covers for like Pink Floyd since like 1969. They did the Dark Side of the Moon album cover with one of the most famous iconic covers of all time, with the beam of light going into the triangle, the prism that comes out as a rainbow. And that's exactly that's what it is. It's input, it's synthesis, and it's output. And I know, like, our friend Aaron Lovejoy talks about the prism a lot. The prism metaphor is something that I keep coming back to as well, as being a fan of Jorge Luis Borges, and he talks about mirrors and prisms, and those surfaces are something that I think of a lot. And he kind of says, like, to be a mirror is to reflect the world back at itself, like as an artist or a creative person. To be a prism is to take that input, to let yourself be the prism, and then to let all the scintillating, radiant colors of the input go through you and become something new that illuminates the world in a new way. And I'm like, yeah, it's the wood chipper. It's the body and the spray, right? That's the idea. But part of it is, I think for me, like, the idea of having an incubative space, like the shower, the walk, whatever that is. I've been thinking about this a lot, because as we are adjusting to new spaces in quarantine and realizing that now our spaces are kind of confining, and you have to readjust yourself or recalibrate yourself to pick up and be attentive to that energy within this weird new cage-like existence that we kind of fucking exist in. How do you maintain attunement? How do you stay open? And does it mean that now all of our portals and inputs are through screens? Kind of. Sometimes, unfortunately. You get out a lot, which I really respect. I don't get out a whole lot, but like, you are in the world, literally hiking, and on Insta, shots of your feet on top of fucking mountaintops, looking at vast swaths of greenery. Like, I get excited by seeing you do that. I don't quite do that yet, but I find for me that so much of it, because I do have a day job that takes up a lot of space. What by space I mean time.
Mm-hmm.
I find that it's time. Like, when do you have the time to know how to recalibrate in between, in those like liminal spaces of your life? Naps is a big thing for me. Taking a nap I call like incubating period. As I go to sleep, I will lay there a little longer, and things just fully come together, fully formed, and I'll wake up and be like, done. It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But those are few and far between now, because sitting like this on calls all day.
Yeah. I think that in the old world, and by that I mean before March of this year, in the old world, we would still be, in meetings all day, and but the difference is, you would get up and get a cup of coffee, and maybe you would see someone else, or you would see someone who had an outfit on that was cool, or you would see someone that was walking with a book that you'd never seen before. There was a lot of spontaneity that we've lost in this time, and the spontaneity, I think, is a really special. It's not even a place. It's a, what is it? It's like lightning. Mm-hmm. It's a happening, and it's an occurrence that you can't predict. That can spark you in so many ways. So how do we recreate spontaneity when you are somewhat isolated? That's really hard. I think about walking around Powell's bookstore here in Portland, or even, I go to LA a lot. My brother lives there. I love Skylight Books there, or the Last Bookstore, as just examples of places that I love to go, maybe with an intention of picking something up, but just seeing a title or seeing a book cover, seeing a color, seeing a section that I hadn't even thought about, could draw me to something that would inspire me in so many ways I hadn't predicted. And that spontaneity, like it's easier to catch lightning when you are, I don't know, soaking wet with a stick on your head, walking around in a field, versus when you're sitting in the same room every day.
Totally.
And so when you talk about like recalibration, and I don't know if I'm going in a different direction here, but I think that's the spontaneity is something that can form you in new ways, or will certainly form me in new ways. Seeing a person you haven't seen in, a few months, when you're in the coffee shop, or, seeing someone that who happens to be in town, any of those things that just like wake something up in your mind. It's not that it's not necessarily that we forget things that we've thought about or have read or seen, or memories that we've had. They just, go to sleep in a way in our mind. And then it takes the right person or, song or seeing something to reconnect the pathway to it.
Yeah.
And I think right now, a lot for me, I think a lot of those, there's a whole lot of stuff in here, but a lot of the pathways are just like there's roadblockers right now because there's not the thing that's waking them up. And I would love to try to figure out what are the ways to like open up those roadblocks, get lightning striking, finding spontaneity in isolated time.
Yeah, it's that idea of like being an antenna, right? Like,
yes.
But if you're holding it inside,
yes, exactly,
and like banging it at your computer screen, waiting for some zap. Well, I mean, to me, this very much is, this is pure lightning. Like, I think these kind of conversations, especially when you start and you're like, yo, let's set this up by having it be about lightning. Let's talk about, let's talk about this shit. Then you can't really help but to me, like, this is a huge, and thank you for that. Like, thank you for being open to even having a combo. There's something too about being in the world. First of all, shout out Anton Pearson. So Anton and I, one of my best friends in the world, I love the dude, super creative, DJ, artist, polymath, great human. We had a couple years where I had a studio, and he worked at the studio with me, and we would walk around and we would do these daily things where we would just get out and wander. And it was purely about being in the world. And the whole, we come up with projects, come up with ideas, work a little bit, but it was all play. And that was the point, is play, but being in the right mental state for play. And yeah, like, it's a privilege to be able to do that kind of thing at all. Like, our job is to be creative. Therefore, we have to make space for that so that we can make money. But
isn't that crazy, by the way? Like, it's so bananas.
Yeah, it is crazy, and I'm very like grateful that we get to do this shit. But we were walking around, and like, there was one day on a Saturday walking around, went to Powell's. That was part of the path. We'd always go to Powell's, keep walking through downtown, maybe walk across Burnside Bridge to the east side and just like look at the water, something happening where all these connections kept being made. Like, we're talking about all this stuff, what we saw today, talking about music, and then we'd walk across a street festival and we'd like see a person that we just saw earlier that day or that we didn't know. It was synchronicitous or serendipitous moment after serendipitous moment. So much that the more it happened and the more these weird coincidental connections were made, it stopped being wonderful. We started just being like, this is what happens to us because we are out here looking for it.
You're paying attention.
Paying attention. And I was like, yo, I think without being blasphemous, I think there may be a formula to serendipity. And I started writing down, I was like, what is it about this day that makes this keep happening? And I was like, well, one, we are there. We are out. One, like
yes.
So we are there. Which kind of reminds me of the idea of like being there, show up. Okay, we are there. That is one. Be out in the spaces. Two, we are open. We are fully paying attention to everything, like our eyes and minds. And that was the other thing. The third thing was that we were as designers or artists or creative people or whatever, I think our job is to look for connections where connections are not there. And I actually just chatted with Eric Carlson yesterday, and the whole thing was about creative juxtaposition. And he's an incredible artist, and his whole thing is about, not his whole thing, but he talks a lot about collage and unexpected connections, creating new connections. And I think that's our job. We make connections. That's what art is, right? So you have being there, you have being attentive, and then you have the intention of connection making. And when you have those three things together, serendipity is automatic almost. Synchronicity is automatic. Synchronicity is about time at the same time, and that requires space at the same time. And I started making like a little diagram, and I'm like, I think this might be kind of a cool thing. It's very simple when you think about it, but like, yeah, that's the shit that I miss.
I love that. I mean, I think that the openness, like being aware and open and curious, you know, and following a path, not following like a person, so to speak. But I think that is really exciting. I love how you put that. It made me think about did you read the book Emergent Strategies?
No, I've never
Emergent
heard
Strategy.
of it.
Oh, check it out. I think you would really like it.
Emergent?
Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. There is a couple of different, the point of the book is that, you know, there's so many different ways that our world and life is evolving, and what are some, you know, so what are some strategies that we can employ in our lives so that we can understand how we can sort of move with that. And I hope I'm getting that right, because it's been a while, but I remember this one line specifically from like early in the book, where it's like there's maybe 9 strategies or 9 values to consider, and one of them is, there is a conversation in this room that only these people can have at this time. Be sure to go find it. And I love that. And I think it's actually what you're talking about. And a conversation doesn't have to be verbal. It can be energetic, or it can be, you know, it can be you and a squirrel sort of eyeballing each other as you're walking down the street. And then the squirrel, you know, eats a Snickers that was dropped on the ground. And then you see the person that did, and then you find I don't know, but that can be a conversation too. But I really love the idea of, instead of having something that you feel that you have to bring to give to somebody in a conversation, being really open to what you can receive from that moment, that person, that squirrel, whatever. Because that, I think, is also that lightening a little bit of every moment and every sort of or a group of people that you're with, or, you know, is unique. And what is unique about that? Yeah.
I fucking love that. That also reminds me of, when you move to LA, I moved to LA like a little more than a year ago, you're required to start learning about screenwriting. No, I mean, I'm like super interested because of my like role-playing game shit. I know you play role-playing games as well. I'm very interested in just story. And now as a like game master or storyteller, whatever you call it, generating participatory stories that other people can engage in, and learning screenwriting has really helped me create some of those structures for people. Also helps me know the language of being in this city, because it's part of the language and world of this place. So the idea of having what you called a conversation, and when I imagine a little conversation with a squirrel, my mind just was going. I'm like, what else happened? Who's the person that owned the stickers? What was the squirrel's attitude? Did they have a family? You know, I'm like creating that story. But what you created was a little scene. And learning about something like story creation and narrative, those scenes all have to have some kind of change, right? Like the characters need to change in some way. For us, I think, and probably for everyone in some way, but like our job is not only connecting, but like to make meaning. And I can't help but be like, what did that mean? I know it could have been utterly arbitrary. Probably was, because everything is, and everything's chaotic and arbitrary and whatever. So, but we create meaning from that shit. And you're like, cool, what do I turn that into? Do I turn that into a little lesson I learned to tell someone later? Do I turn that into a story? Does that become an illustration about friendship? Is that about the connection of like capitalism as a Snickers wrapper and the natural world in an urban environment with a squirrel? Like, that's what we do in our filter. And that idea of like intentional meaning making after the fact, that's what makes the conversations ring, you know. It's pretty cool.
It's also how you can take something actually seemingly very mundane, like you said, and find meaning into it, but taking something that's mundane and making value out of it. And I don't mean monetary value. I know that our creative minds connects to monetary value, but I just mean, I think that the best thing a friend can do to me when I see them or when they call me is like, I have the story to tell you. And what's a seemingly random thing is actually really funny or interesting or provocative in the way that you were able to connect the squirrel to capitalism. Yes, I think all of that. And just that openness to that is so important, because otherwise it's just like, fucking squirrel, fucking little. What kind of world are we living in? There was, the Sunday before we all went lockdown, I was the first week of March, I was in four different cities around the world. I was in New York for work, then Los Angeles, then London, then I was in Delhi and a couple other cities in India. And then I did that in reverse order. Wow. Came back, the day you come back from a trip, for me, I'm like, I got to make sure my house is sorted. I got to have my groceries. I got to have all this stuff. And I went on this big errand mission with our friend Nagini. And she's a person also, hell yeah, shout out Nagini. She is also a person that's really attuned to noticing colors and patterns and things. And we were walking downtown, and there was this blue Willamette Weekly news box, like where you could get the newspaper from, and it's this bright blue and it's gorgeous. And there was half of a peeled clementine just sitting on top of it. And we both stopped because the colors were they were screaming to both of our eyes. And we stopped and we looked at it. I took a photo. I'll see if I can find it. I'll send it to you. But there's so many things that could have happened in that moment where it could have been, oh man, garbage. Somebody left their trash. Like, what are they doing? Or, ew, that's gross. But we sat there and thought, like, what happened? Was somebody like in the middle of eating an orange and then had to get the newspaper, but their hands were too full because they also had their groceries and they were trying to figure out, like, well, what do I do with this orange? I can't just put it in my mouth. I'll put it down here quick while I get the paper because, it's my first story I've ever written that's in the paper and I just have to get a bunch of them. So then their hands were full and then they said, oh, fuck, like, I'm not going to bend down and pick up the orange. Like, so they just left it there. We went on and we're thinking about all these things and, yeah, it's the act of noticing is so important. There's this book. Oh no. What is it called?
Is it called The Act of Noticing?
No, it's called, oh no. I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to get as close as I can and shout out and thank you, Kelly Anderson, for recommending it to me. It's something about like an attempt to notice some things in Paris. And it's a beautiful little skinny book. And I think I might've told you about it before too. It's just like this big. And what the author did was he would go and he would sit in a square and then he would just document everything he was seeing. 5 pigeons are nibbling at bread on the ground. An old woman is sitting and drinking a coffee and shaking out a bag from where the bread had come from. A man crosses the street folding a newspaper under his arm, literally just documenting everything. But as a reader, as you're reading that, not only are you taking in and this whole scene is being painted, you're able to awaken every single thing that you see when you go outside. So maybe I'm belaboring the point and we're about like, yeah, just notice what's around you, look around you, because you never know what kind of gift, story, joke, inspiration is in just a piece of trash on the street, or an orange on a newspaper box.
I don't think you're belaboring the point at all. There's one other, I know it's 11. I don't want to keep you for more than an hour. If that's
is this where I say, keep me as long as you want?
Anything you wanted to say back? No. There's this, there's something, there's this word that I kind of made up. It's a fake word. It's the word mattering. Like,
okay.
It is the adjectiving, the adjectivization, another new word, the adjectivization of, I guess, a noun. No, what does it mean, like, to matter? Like, that matters. Is matter a verb?
Well,
Like,
matter is a noun. It
not
means
the noun, but
substance.
the verb version,
Value. Value.
right? It's a value. Okay, word. Thanks. Word. Okay. So it's the, I guess, like the adjectivization of that value, like mattering, the state of mattering, the state of being meaningful to something, the
Mm,
state of being relevant or resonant. Um, Mattering. It's like it's vibrating with a kind of meaning, even if you don't know that it is. And when I was like, oh, everything is mattering, even if I don't know it is, everything that could be insignificant around me in the world has some kind of meaning outside of me. And once I started thinking about that, I feel like I would look at things and like this Iron Man fucking 3D diagram of the object in space and time would happen, and I would try to sketch it out. Like we'd see these things, or I'd see these things that would be pretty insignificant, like the Snickers wrapper on the ground, and exactly like that Clementine and Willamette Week box. What was the story? What could it be to everyone else? How does this matter to the people that deliver the Willamette Weeks that come and have to deal with the rotten
yeah.
Clementine? How does it
Yeah.
matter to the hungry, houseless person that's walking by that really wants some vitamin C? How does it matter to two young, perceptive artists that see the radiating color? Like, and I remember looking at the back of the neon sign and seeing the metal lattice work of like black metal and black metal and and the plug that went into the ground. I was in an ice cream shop, and the plug kind of hung down by where like kids could touch it, and I saw kids around, and I'm like, oh, if I was a parent, that neon sign would be dangerous for my kid. If I was an electrician, I'd be looking only at the wires and the rubber and how the vinyl paint is painted to make sure that there's not like shorts. If I'm a graphic designer, I'm going to look at the beautiful script and how the lines connect and where the gaps are and how the R could read better if the ligature was tighter, you know? And I'm like, it became this fun exercise of like perspective and mattering. Like, how do different people perceive objects and how do those things resonate in the world in different dimensions? Then it got me thinking about like AR. Like, what if you could have AR layers to like see the world in different ways, to different people's perspectives, which would be really
Mhm.
fun. That's like a science fiction story.
Of course, and what people are noticing. Like if you and I were standing in the same corner, and what are you noticing and what am I
Mm-hmm.
noticing? I mean, you talk about you and Anton going on those walks, and maybe you would get to some synchronicity where you're like noticing the same thing,
Yeah.
because when you're watching a film, perhaps there's a lot of things going on in a scene, but you're meant to notice one thing. But there could be six people noticing different things. By the way, I looked up the name of the book because it was really bothering me, and
Yes.
it's An Attempt to Exhaust a Place in Paris.
You did tell me about this book.
Uh,
What an incredible name.
I know. The name alone is like just so great.
It reminds me of the like Guy Debord situationist idea of the derive. I think we've talked about that.
Huh?
The situationist idea, who were like post-Dadaist, anti-capitalist
Oh,
performance artists in France. Guy Debord was the guy that kind of started it. The derive is the idea of intentionally getting lost in a place as like an
yeah.
act of defiance and art.
You know, I love that. And it's also, it makes me think about the first time I went to Paris, which was, you know, pre smartphone. And I had this book that was a physical map, and it was maps of every different arrondissement and neighborhood. And it's much harder now to get lost somewhere. I'll say that, because we have the tools that you could literally probably pull up your phone now and you could tell me your favorite place in Minneapolis, and I could look up the street and you could talk to me about the route you take, and I could literally walk through that, which is so
It's
cool.
crazy. Yeah.
On a street view or whatever is so cool. But the magic of getting lost somewhere is also what you learn along the way. Like Hansel and Gretel dropping their breadcrumbs, and you know, you as an individual have to like, oh, the yellow sign is where I noticed, or I remembered I was here before, and then made a right, and then okay, cool, now I'm back to where I'm at. So drawing maps in our minds, obviously we all do that, hopefully still, but I think that we have such a baseline to create from that maybe we didn't before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, we make our own landmarks in places, and those landmarks are subjective. Li Fu Tuan, one of my favorite references ever, subjective geography. It's the way that the human being manifests ourselves in a space. I just moved to a new apartment a month ago. And I'm in full, thank you. I'm in full open Tuan mode. I'm like, but I want to be connected. And when I first moved here, I'm like, I don't know if I like this neighborhood. And then I'm like, turn that off, turn off that whole thing, and go to, I do like this neighborhood because it's now my neighborhood. How will I be connected to it?
Yeah. And
surprise yourself.
What about also, I just don't know, you just don't know it yet, you know, like for Ifu Tuan, so much of it is taking something that is unknown and then it becoming known. And then when the shift of something being unfamiliar to familiar, the mailbox that is the place that you go and drop off your, you know, I don't know, a letter to your family once a month, or if you're a runner, it's the thing you see. And when you see it, you have to sprint to it. And you have to build relationships with some of those inanimate objects or landmarks in your neighborhood. So getting to know something is where you can actually create intimacy and maybe value also.
Yeah, 100%. I found a couple days ago, for the first time in this new neighborhood, my spot that I like to go and kick it and draw for like an hour and sit in. I walk up to the La Brea tar pits and I walk in through a certain gate, and there's always people walking their dogs, and there's like kids doing like soccer practice on the green, and I get to walk past like huge fiberglass mammoths like dying in the tar pits and shit. So like that's pretty cool. There's like a lady like cleaning off the back of a saber-toothed tiger sculpture. It's like the coolest shit. Then I go and I sit in this weird little alcove, and I'm open and the sun's on me, and I see human beings, which is phenomenal nowadays. To see human beings just existing as human beings is new again. And it's like this perfect space to let the world in. And I haven't had that for a little bit, and it's weird.
That's exciting. Do you think that there's and this is probably different for everyone, like from something being unknown for like the La Brea tar pits, like being a place of like, oh, I want to be here, I want to hang out here, this is where I want to make work and or draw or just sit in the sun and get inspired, to or like, are you a person, I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask, are you a person of old haunts, you know, like routine of the same seat at the same booth in the restaurant that you want to sit in and draw and write? Or are you someone who wants to like find the new place always? Or maybe you're a little bit of both.
Yeah, totally both. I absolutely have old haunts because I have like parameters that I like to do certain things. Like, you know, in Portland, there are very specific, there's one booth that I would go to in a local bar. I actually wrote a story about it. T5 is the booth. And I wrote a story about it and read it on stage at Design Week Portland about that booth changing my perspective. And I went there hundreds of times over the course of 10 years or whatever. And that booth became very important to me because at first it didn't mean anything. And then I started creating there. And then it wasn't like superstitious in any way. It was just like, I know that I can get what I need there. However, I love being on airplanes because you feel away from space and time. People can't reach you. It is that white box you were talking about. And I miss that. I like being in airports a lot and drawing and being surrounded by human beings going places. It's something about the nexus. It's the nexus of space and fucking time. It's a weird nexus that gets out of our patterns, rips you out of your pattern and puts you somewhere where that continuum, everyone's continuum is warped. It is a literal nexus point of space and time is literally converging. Like we get to get in an object and go somewhere thousands of miles away in 3 hours. And this is the hub for where all these people come together. It's pure potential. And it doesn't mean it's pure good. Like, you know, airports are also weird and scary and kind of horrifying and bacteria filled and like you never know what might happen, because that is where humanity connects in this really odd way in a physical space. But I find it exhilarating being in an airport.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's it.
Two things about airports. One, yes, to everything you said. I used to fly every week for work. There was a time where like the idea of going to the airport and like getting ready and having your bag and like checking in was like such a event. And this is certainly a point of privilege for work that allotted to me, that I always had my toothbrush and everything in my bag. So I was always prepared for the minimalist of things that I would absolutely need if I was going anywhere. And it became very routine. And, airplanes are called Airbuses. And I really started to feel like it was an actual bus that I was getting on, because I would like get on the bus to go to the San Francisco Bay Area for work for the day and come back at the end of the night. And the routine actually dissolved a little bit of the magic. For me, in some ways, I'm now completely, I haven't been on a plane since February, though that last week that I was traveling, I was on 9 planes in 10 days, and that was too much. But I have a friend, his name is Rishi Hirway. He does a podcast called Song Exploder. He
listened to one this morning.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I listened to the Phoebe Bridgers one. We just met Phoebe Bridgers' mom the other day, weirdly.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Richie's amazing. I mean, he's doing a lot of different stuff. And he has the Netflix show now for Song Exploder. It's incredible. But I know Rishi through music, and I've known him quite a long time. And he had an old project called the 1 a.m. Radio, where he sang and he played keyboard and guitar and all this. And he has this one song called Airports. And you should check it out, because it's kind of about all of this. It's like going to airports to see, he says, like, I think one of the lines is, I go to airports to see the lovers reunite. It's so beautiful. And how all of these things that you're explaining are kind of encapsulated in that song. And it's on my like forever airplane listening always, because it just makes me feel re-excited about going somewhere, coming somewhere. Who are all these people? Where are they going? Why are they going? Like you said, there's a million things to notice, and there's a million stories converging in a place that you could never possibly know. But it made me think, anyway, your story made me think about that song. So check it out.
I will definitely check it out. And shout out Rishi Hirway.
Yeah. Shout out
Song Exploder. I've been listening to it since the very beginning, and it's something that I reference constantly as just a thing that's so inspiring. So yeah, that's cool that you know them.
Oh yeah, he's amazing, truly amazing, nicest person. And how people just keep creating in different ways. He's an example like you, I think, who's really a person who's just someone I know who's so inspiring and just is like relentless about, relentless curiosity, like allowing yourself to be curious about the thing you're curious about, rather than like noticing something and thinking, oh, that's cool. And there's nothing wrong with that. But noticing something, thinking that's cool, and wondering about it and digging into it and having a conversation about it. And love that about him, love it about you, about every probably creative person I know.
That's tight. Thanks. Well, it's been an hour, and I think that there's so much. This has been awesome. First of all, there's so much that I want to talk to you about who you are and where you're from and other perspectives that you have. But maybe we can do that in the future at some point if you're willing to come hang out again.
Absolutely, Adam. Anytime. I will talk to you anytime. It's so fun. I feel so energized. My brain was not awake when this started, and it is just like sparkling now.
Yeah.
So
well, you are an absolute lightning rod, and that you mentioned earlier, and I appreciate you so much, Nishat. And anything else? Any last words for anyone not me that may be watching?
Well, I hope everybody's just taking really good care of themselves right now, however you need to, and take care of yourself, your community, check in with your people, your families, your chosen family. I think that's the most important thing that we can be doing right now for ourselves and for each other.
That's it. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And
appreciate you, Adam.
Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon.
Okay, you too.
Yo, and this will be up like later today, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Just let me know.
Yeah, and I'll be posting about it and stuff.
Sweet.
All right, Nishat, thanks so much. Talk soon.
See you, Adam. Bye.
Bye.